But one of the things that's interesting to me, when I spoke to you about it before, Auntie Christine, you were saying to me before, it's not just a bed and breakfast, David, it's a lot more than that. So I'd like both of you to talk about that a bit more. And if I could start with you again, Aunty Unbulara, and then we'll move on to Auntie Christine.
All right. It was much more than that because it was our meeting place. It was there was medicine trees. There were so many cultural areas in that property. Not just that bit of property. You walked in the paddocks close by and walked with Karno, and he could show you so much of the culture, so much of the story, so much of um, the imprint of our people being there, the Wurundjeri people. But it was also our meeting place. It was where we'd have our mummies, which, as you probably already know, is not just for Wurundjeri people, it's for anybody who wants to come. And we've had some very interesting people come. And they've all embraced us and we've embraced them. We've had people even come from other countries. We had that lovely Indian chief and his wife. They were just so beautiful. And people who were coming up from Melbourne picked them up and brought them up. And, it was the first time they'd seen an ocean. And, they live out on the prairie. But they were beautiful, weren't they, Christine?
Yes,
absolutely
beautiful.
Absolutely
beautiful.
We've had hippies and we've had all sorts
Flower
of people.
Power.
Yeah, all sorts of people come. But they're lovely. And it was good for them and it was good for us, too, to meet them. But it was also a place where, there were times we had meetings like with Karta Mayor and Council and, when we were trying to do more at that property than we were hoping to have our centre there, with, a learning, healing, teaching, weren't we, Christina? So, we pretty much had council on side with that, and we had all sorts of things that we were going to do there, but, it didn't come to pass. And, it was the kind of place, you've probably never been there, but it was the kind of place that when you got there and you just sat on the grass, it was just such a beautiful feeling, just so peace. And to sit around the sacred fire, because the men built a nice surround around that with openings at each side, one opening for the ancestor to come in, the other to go out and get the wood for the fire, but you kept them both free. But I remember doing a lot of night shifts by the fire, and you'd sit there and it'd be so spiritual and the big man Kangaroo would come and the ancestors' entrance and sit there and just listen, and you'd talk to him and you'd just listen, and there's just something so amazing about that place. And then when we did some documents about something and we went down to the fire to rest it, to have the eagles come and circle round and round and round, like saying, yeah, that's right, guys, you go ahead, this is what you got to do, like everything about them. And another day there, I just went for a wander by myself, and I was up in the paddocks, and I come around this there were some bushes, and I walked around it, and there were 5 kangaroos there, and I thought, oh, and they were big buck kangaroos. So I sat down in the grass. So I thought, I'm not going to harm you. I'm just sitting here. And they sat down. And we sat there for about half an hour, just sat there communicating with each other. And then I said, well, I better get back to the group. And I got up and I walked away, like things like that don't happen anywhere else, it's just, I don't know, that it was just a very special place, I think. Absolutely special.
Yep.
And we'd stay there for days, and we'd be all smoked from the fire, and our hair would look like we'd been out in the wind for a month, and we looked like we were ferals, but it was great. Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was good. It was
Yeah.
good.
And, you know, sometimes we'd go up the house and have a cuppa with Karno and Christine, just, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, we'd have a big cook-up, and everybody would have, you know, do something towards the meal for that night, and it would be great, wouldn't it? We'd have,
Yeah, community.
yeah, it was a community thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I miss it.
I miss it too. To me, it was home, of course,
Yes,
because we lived there for 10 years.
yes,
And to me, it was so healing.
yes.
You just sit on the veranda, and it was so laid back. It's laid back, you know. Even the community there, the people of Kangaroo Island, are so easy to get along with.
Oh, aren't they?
They
Yeah.
are amazing, and that some of them would come down to the property and have meals with us, and most of them that we knew there were invited to these mamawees, the gatherings, and a lot of them turned up. Even the mayor and all the rest of them turned up.
Yep.
And they had a wonderful time and thanked us, and everyone got a turn at the fire of looking after the fire and at the mamawees, and everyone got a turn of talking at the fire if they've got something to say.
Yep.
I had grandchildren that actually wrote stories about the actual mamawees and how they saw it. They talked about Home Amongst the Stars and Wulde Waiirri in the heavens and all the rest of that. And you know, we had several on the island, and I think we started to have one every year.
Do you want to help, love?
And so, you know, they were beautiful. I mean, I was a little bit nervous about staying in the house by myself at night while Karno was working. I thought I would actually be terrified, but, you know, being so isolated out there and all that, but I didn't. I slept like a baby. And it just... Often you heard noises out in the night. You know, I remember Karno going outside this particular night because he'd heard this old man coughing out there. So he went out and had a look around the back, and he had a torch, and he was shining the torch around in the gardens. And then he went out in the front, and I said, "What's up?" And he said, "No, nothing." So he goes off and he goes down the passage down to the front where the car park was, and he said, "Come here." And there was a koala sitting on the spindliest tree that was sitting there, and it's a wonder his weight stayed on that little branch. And Karno walked out and just stood underneath him, and I've got a beautiful photo of Karno with the koala just sitting above his head. And even when we had the gatherings and Laura and her family would pick their spot,
yes,
they were always disturbed by the koalas.
Yes,
right there going up, mother and baby, and coming down.
Yeah, we were there making dinner, and I just looked behind me, and there's Mum traipsing across from that tree to the other one, and the bub right behind her. They didn't care one bit about us.
It was such a special place, to the point that after Karno passed, we tried to hang on to that property, but ILC wanted me out because I wasn't the right colour. And no matter what, see, I didn't go through the stage then of saying not quite white, because at that time I didn't have the proof.
Yeah.
So I fought like anything to keep that property, and I really felt like I let Karno down when we lost it.
Oh no, we tried our best, and we went to the courts, and we tried our best.
And even though the judge,
we couldn't beat them, mate. They are a big organisation with
they had the money,
and
they had the lawyers.
They're part of the system. Yep.
And even though the judge that we actually had in that court case, he was on our side, but he couldn't show that.
No.
But in the end, he had to just say that he couldn't really do too much in our favour because
they're the ILC.
They're the ILC, the Indigenous Land Corporation. I'm going to name you, and I'm going to shame you, and
they haven't just done it to us. They've done it to other people all over the country, Christine, thriving businesses, and they've just said, no, we want it back.
See, we had to run by their rules for a long time. 3 years we were on that property, and it was only just then that they allowed us to open it up as a bed and breakfast. So we jumped through their hoops all that time, and every time we got to that mark for it to sign over to us, they'd move the goalpost.
Yep, every
And then
time.
we had another whole pile of hoops that we had to jump through, even to the point that Karno and I went and done a business certificate.
That's right, you did, yeah.
We went and done a business certificate, and I said to Karno, I'm too damn old to be doing this sort of shit. Oh, sorry. Anyway, it's there now. It's been said. And, and we went and we got our certificates, and then, we went on to the next thing, and we got a business plan done through the group that they said we should get it done through and everything like that, even though we already had a business plan done. And just kept moving those goalposts. They had
every meeting we go to, it would be different. No matter what we took, no matter what we had, they wanted more.
Yeah.
Every time.
To the point that they actually wanted Karno's personal bank details.
Yes.
And he refused.
He said, you give me yours first.
So, and every person that we had in that as a bed and breakfast absolutely loved it. They wrote beautiful reviews for us in our book, and they were coming back. Some of them were returned all the time, and we had, Chinese people. We had all sorts in there, and Karno always ended up free of charge taking them for a walk through and telling them the story of the land. Yeah. And they absolutely loved it.
Okay. Just another question for both of you. It's like the meaning of Wulde Waiirri.
Well, first of all, you've got to pronounce it properly.
Yep.
And it's called Wulde Waiirri, which is the meaning is Wulde in Ramangeri language is eagle, wedge-tail eagle, and Waiirri is heaven. And if you go Waiirri at the end of it, AR on the end of it, it means eagle heaven, home amongst the stars. And it was home amongst the stars. I mean, those eagles were absolutely amazing. They were Karno's Nachi.
Yeah. And
Nachi in Ramangeri means totem. And we wore the wedge-tail eagle on our security uniforms, SA Aboriginal Security, which Karno was the, what is it called? The director, the founder of that as well. Yes, he founded that. And we also wore it on our martial arts uniforms, which he was also the founder of. And so we wore the wedge-tail eagle on any uniform that we wore.
You got anything to add to that as well, Aunty Unbulara? No. It means eagle among the stars. Is that right?
Eagle heaven.
Eagle
heaven.
Yeah.
Home amongst the stars.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So
that's exactly. If you were out there, you would know that feeling of eagle heaven, home amongst the stars. You would know that feeling on that property. That property had so much spiritual energy on it that if anyone else ends up with that property for any bad reasons, they will know about it because those spirits will keep it pure and truthful.
Yep, that's
and
for
honest.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and just one other thing that's like sort of related to Karno's Nachi. It's like the conversation. The person that I did an interview with at Aunty Merrill's place, he couldn't tell us his job for clearance reasons, but he was in the area of history and natural history and conservation. Yes, conservation. But anyway, he was telling the story about how whenever Karno would come down to the Coorong, he'd always see an eagle outside the window of his house, and he knew Karno was there. And he was a white fella as well. And this is one of the things that's amazing to me is like his effect on people was so strong that he would actually, introduce white people to culture, and they'd actually start experiencing it.
Yes.
Absolutely, and I can tell you a little story about that particular person. He's a very private person, and unless you're invited to his house, you don't get it. You don't go. And he was great friends with Peter and Merrill.
Mhm.
So therefore, they were shocked that Karno and I were actually invited around there for a barbecue. And because Merrill said he doesn't invite anybody. Oh, I must really like Karno. And so we continued every time we actually went down there, as you said, you know, the Eagles would show, they would know we're there. They would come around and catch us. We went to birthday parties there. We went to all sorts of parties there, you know. So we were, he took to Karno like a duck to water.
As most people did that met him.
Hey?
As most people who met him did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so so that's one of the things that's been totally mind blowing for me. I've had my own experience.
Let me say, that first gathering we had over on the property, they come.
Mm.
Him and his wife come.
Mm.
And had a ball.
About that in the interview as well.
Did he?
Yeah. And it's like, but yeah, that's one of the things that Aunty Merrill actually loved the most about that interview. It's like when she watched it, when I played it back for her, and he was talking about how he saw the eagle, and she's like, yes. Because like that was Karno, and she just loved that he mentioned that.
Mm.
And okay, so I suppose I think it should. One thing we haven't really stated very clearly about the work we're doing with Wirritjin Peggera is like, just correct me if I'm wrong, both of you, but my understanding is we're a spiritual organisation, not a political one.
Yes.
Okay, and we're not about fighting for sovereignty in a political way or anything like that. The only reason why we're talking about this today, my understanding, is because it's part of Karno's history.
Yeah.
And a very important part.
Yeah.
So just to make sure that the audience knows and understands that if they want to get involved in this project at all, it won't be on a political level. We're asking people to look at spirit and look at culture.
Yep.
And nothing else.
Exactly.
And also on that note, we are having another gathering Mamawi in October this year down at Victor Harbour, and anyone that wants to come is welcome, and they just need to ring up first to let us know that they want to attend. So
yeah, we need sort of numbers, don't we? A bit. And we have the rules and regs: no drugs and alcohol, and no pets, unless they're a blind person, need their blind dog.
And really, no electronic devices either.
And not at the fire, no.
The fire, and no eating or drinking at the fire. And we just hope that everyone respects us enough to honour those rules.
They normally do.
Yeah.
We've had the odd person. Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to put a phone number up with that, David.
Well, maybe we'll put a link to the website's contact page. And
yeah, when we organise it again and have it set in. Yeah, I'll send you a link to it.
Unbulara's just got to do up we've got the permission and everything like that, the go ahead and all that. It's just that she's got to put the page up. So
I just put it up on all the different pages. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll link to that as well if I get hold of those links.
Yeah.
Just one other thing I'd like to say about what we're working on, and the thing that's like impressed me talking to all the committee members, including both of you, is like as well as being a spiritual organisation to promote culture and spirit and Karno's legacy. One of the biggest takeaways I've personally got is like this is all about bringing back the old blackfella ways, the old blackfella law, not the whitefella law. So blackfella LORE, not whitefella LAW.
As Karno would say, proper way.
Proper way.
Proper way.
So that gives people a better understanding of what this project's about as well, when we understand it through the lens of what the committee members are saying.
Mm.
Yeah. And it kind of links up a little bit with the show that's on the TV at the moment called The First Inventors.
Yes, yes.
Okay, what's that about?
How's the clothes going, Viv?
Hey?
How are they going?
I know, I've got NITV on, there's a Koori concert.
Oh, okay.
One of those, where they travel around all the Koori concerts. Yeah. Mm.
Okay.
So I can just hear the music. in the background there. In language.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Anyway.
how are we feeling? Is there anything anyone else wants to add, or should we wrap it up?
Wrap it up.
Yeah,
Wrap it
we'll wrap it up. If you think of anything else, well,
we can also put it on the webpage or add it to the end of the video. But I think
yeah.
I think both of you covered it pretty well, actually. So, yeah, I think people are going to get a much better understanding of what Karno was about, especially in the areas of like native title and sovereignty. And once again, just repeat, like, we're a spiritual organisation, not a political one. We're not about fighting. It's like fighting the courts or anything like that. We're just
I guess
No, not yet.
People that really wouldn't get to know anything to do with Karno is those ones that were actually going against him in the way of their own fight for their own countries, I suppose, and their own greed and their own whatever else. And
So,
and all states are a bit different. Victoria's doing a treaty.
Yeah.
But, not all states will do that. NT's just given back some of its land, to the rightful owners. So it's happening in little pockets everywhere.
Yeah, and I think it's a very long and complicated, not just between blackfella and whitefella, but between blackfella and blackfella. It's a very complicated thing.
It is.
Sorted out carefully anyway. It's not something that can be done quickly overnight or in a couple of years even.
Yeah.
No.
But I think, once again, what I like about this project is like it's all about bringing back the old blackfella, LORE, and starting from there first and working because if your spirit's not right, then the culture's not going to be right, and then culture just like precedes LAW anyway. So, so that's one of the things I like about what Karno was all about with Wirritjin and
Yeah.
But thank you both very much for taking the time.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
And
sorry it took me so long. I put my computer away when I'm not using it.
It's okay.
It still worked out very well. Yeah, so I think all three of us are very happy with how this worked out. And that's
I know that it doesn't get